Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing our wrap-up video for the month of August. So let's just jump into it. Let's get right into the watch list section here. So I watched Aquaman #1. I really liked it, although now that I've seen it more than twice and that I saw it more calmly without having like these kind of like hype feelings around it, the storytelling is not that great. However, the action sequences are pretty awesome, and I like Jason Momoa. I forgot that Amber Heard was in the movie, and then when I saw her, I was like pretty upset. I was like, oh man, this horrible person is in this movie. That kind of sucks. But at the same time, it was like, well, she did a pretty good job with this character, even if there is no chemistry between them. So I can't hate it too much, but it did sour the experience of the movie a little bit for me, right? So yeah, moving on, I watched Oppenheimer, and I loved this movie. I mentioned it before a few times, but everything about this movie was great. I loved the tension. I loved the climax of the bomb going off, and then the kind of situation where Oppenheimer realizes the horror that he has unleashed on the world. But at the same time, I feel like Christopher Nolan maybe allowed himself a little bit too much room, because there's certain scenes, specifically the sex scenes. Now, I'm not against the sex scene, like in itself. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with them per se, but to me, they didn't really serve any purpose. Like, they didn't tell anything about the character, in my opinion. Like, the first one did. The second one didn't feel meaningful. It was more like, oh, we forgot about this character. Let's reintroduce her. How do we do that? Oh, let's make it a sex scene so people remember her, and then kill her off. They could have just killed her off without the sex scene, and I think it would have still been impactful. But at the same time, I think that it was important for Nolan to keep these scenes in, to actually make these scenes part of the movie, because it offers moments of respite, I guess, between these very intense, kind of very like slow, methodical, sections of the story. So on one hand, I was like, there's no point to these. And on the other hand, I was like, well, it makes sense that they would be there. It's kind of like sexposition in Game of Thrones, right? But either way, I don't have a problem with them existing, but I feel like if you just remove them, there would also be no issue. And so maybe they're not necessary. And that's kind of my viewpoint there. But I've seen a lot of people have issues with these scenes, at all. And that's kind of weird. Like, I don't understand why there is an issue. Like, I'm not looking at it from like a puritanical sense, right? Like, I don't care that they're there. The thing that like bothers me about them is that I didn't feel they added anything to the scene. So they didn't add anything to the movie. So my stance is purely like based on storytelling and not necessarily like a personal belief, right? So yeah, but I've seen some people have some wild takes about it, and I didn't know that was a thing. So yeah, then I continued to watch My Adventures with Superman, and I really enjoyed the previous episode that came out last week. I have not watched this week's episode because they don't come out on HBO until tomorrow, until Friday. And I didn't love the episode before that, where we get to see the Council of Loises. I think it was fine, but it wasn't amazing. Like, something about it was missing, and I think that's because it's actually a two-parter connected with last week's episode. So maybe I'll watch everything in a binge, and maybe I'll like it better, but I don't remember liking it that much. So yeah. And I watched a few episodes of Smallville, and I really enjoyed my time with it, but I have not been able to return to it because I've been trying to watch other things, and I think that I'm not going to be able to return to it for a while. So I don't know when I'm going to get around to talking about it again, but hopefully it's relatively soon, right? So yeah, then I watched Blue Beetle. I loved this movie. I don't think it's the best movie ever. A lot of it feels repetitive. It feels really similar to things I've seen before. Like, the scene where Jaime is entering the Ted Cord company is very similar to Amazing Spider-Man 1. The fight between him and OMAC is basically Iron Man 1. A lot of it feels like Spider-Man. A lot of it feels like Iron Man in general. And it's not a problem for me, but it is something that I think is going to be a turnoff for a lot of people, and it seems to have been a turnoff for a lot of people. However, I loved the Hispanic, vibe that it had. Like, it was really, really good at capturing a Mexican family. I'm not necessarily the type of Mexican that Jaime is. Like, my experience as a American or as a Mexican living in America is very different from the one they portrayed here in the movie in Blue Beetle. But so many things were still applicable, and so many of them were actually more meaningful to my parents than they were to me. Like, I understood all the references to all of the things that they referenced, like Chapulín Colorado, Mariela del Barrio, like all of that stuff I understood and I connected with. But to me, it was just kind of like, yeah, I understand it. It's not that great. I mean, the Chapulín Colorado stuff, the Chespirito stuff was awesome. But some of the other references weren't really all that important to me. But to my mom, they were great. It was like, oh, I can finally connect with one of these movies because it talks about things that I know. Because, like, usually when we go to the movies, it's me, my dad, and my sister are very interested in the sci-fi, engineering, all of the things that you can think of an engineer as liking, all of the nerdy, geeky stuff. We're all into that stuff. And my mom comes from a very different background than that, and she's not really all that interested in stuff like that. And so when she goes to the movies with us to watch all of these nerdy, geeky things, it's mostly out of like, okay, I'll go with you guys because I care about you, not necessarily because I want to watch this movie. And so this time she joined us for the same reason. My sister wasn't there. She actually went back to university before I did. So I ended up watching the movie with my parents without my sister. And this time it was nice because me and my dad were very interested in the nerdy tech stuff. And then all of the Mexican things made my mom invested in this movie, so much so that she did something that she never really does, which is reference the movie, talk about the movie a few days after we watched it. Usually we only talk about it, the day of, maybe the day after in the morning, but then we kind of move on from the topic. Well, my mom kept bringing it up because she found the family dynamic really, really funny and enjoyable. And so I thought that was great. I met someone that's really stuck on the idea of representation mattering a lot because I find myself represented in all types of people, not just the ones that look like me. But I think it's nice to have, some of these movies that are very good at doing the representation thing because they allow certain people to connect with movies that they would have not connected with otherwise. So I do appreciate it in that sense, and I think it was great. So yeah, then I watched The Rise of Beast again, the Transformers movie, with my family, with my parents, and it was great. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. My dad thought it was fun. He didn't like the Iron Man scene at the end, but it was fine. And my mom was, okay with it. She liked the little kid and his relationship with Anthony Ramos. So yeah, then I watched the Adam Eve special and I enjoyed it. It was great. I did a review for it. I don't really have much else to say about it. Then I watched Ahsoka season 1, at least the first 3 episodes, and I am going to do a review for episode 3 if I haven't already. I don't remember what I did or not, but I'm going to talk about it later. But basically, I liked it so far. I think that they're a little bit too stoic about the characters. Like, Ahsoka is way too stoic, way too chill. And the problem isn't that she is like that. The problem is that everyone else is also stoic and chill. And so it doesn't make for very dynamic television. And I really want there to be more situations where emotion is important and relevant. And I think that we're not really seeing that because, Obi-Wan and Anakin were not emotionless or very chill people themselves. Luke and Old Man Obi-Wan aren't like that either. Yoda isn't like that either. It's really weird to have Ahsoka be so zen. And it makes it not necessarily boring, but a lot less compelling to watch. And I think that is an issue because if you're going to be losing your audience by having characters that people don't really care about because they've not seen the Rebels show, myself being one of them, I've seen some parts of Rebels, but I never connected with any of the characters, so I never kept watching it. I don't care about them. I only care about Ahsoka, but Ahsoka isn't being exciting and interesting to watch. So my interest may wane soon. However, episode 3 was really, really good at being Star Wars. Like, there was dogfights and there was, weird planets to land on and there was weird animals in space. Like, it was all good and the music was great. However, the characters are probably the weakest part. So it is what it is. I'm not really sure how I feel about it, really. So, yeah. And then I watched Wheel of Time Season 1 again. I need to watch Episode 8, which I'm going to watch tonight. And, man, this show sucks, man. Like, some parts are good, and then some parts are bad. And sometimes I see something that I initially thought was good, and now that I'm rewatching it more critically, knowing that I don't like the show, it feels like it's worse than before. Like blocking in the first battle, in the leaf taking episode is off. It doesn't feel that great. It doesn't look that good. I thought it looked great, but it doesn't. It's not that enjoyable to watch. And then the character relationships are not that good. Like, I like the cast. I think they look great. Yasha himself is amazing, and I really wish he would play young Anakin Skywalker in something. He looks just like Hayden Christensen, and his voice is so good, and I like him. And Moraine is a good actress. Like, the woman that plays Moraine, Rosamund Pike, is a good actress, but I just can't connect because they don't feel like the people they're supposed to be embodying sometimes because of the shitty way that the plot moves. Like, or maybe that's the wrong way to put it. I like them, I connect with them, but the plot moves them in ways that feels off. And again, I don't give a shit about Karine or Stefan, and wasting so much time on them is stupid. Because the Warder Aes Sedai bond is supposed to be super, important, but up to 6 books that I've read, we never see it. So why are you wasting so much time showing it right now? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, just say it. And you already showed scenes with Lan and Moraine. Move on. Stop wasting time with those characters and actually give us a good adaptation of the first book. Like, that was constantly my thought process watching the show. And it fucking sucks, man, because I know they could do better and they're just not going to be able to do it. And now there's no way to fix any of these things because now they've been going on with the same shit. And unless we somehow end up on season 4 and they finally see that there's issues, I don't think that we're ever going to get a good Wheel of Time show. I'm, tentatively excited for season 2 that comes out on Friday, but man, I don't think they're going to do that good because I just don't see it happening. So yeah, very frustrating to watch this. I watched a Scary Movie 2 for shits and giggles. I don't know, me and my roommates were tired of watching Wheel of Time, so we put on Scary Movie. It was really funny, but I remember watching this as a kid and thinking about it. I'm like, how did my parents let me watch this? But it was good. I liked it, but it was really ridiculous. And sometimes it was just like, none of this makes sense, but it's funny, so it's good. And then I watched Gran Turismo. I was gonna do a review for it, but I decided not to because there's no point. It's not that good. It's about to be removed from theaters already. But I did like some aspects of it. I'm not the type of guy that's interested in cars. I think that is mostly something for older men. At this point, mostly young men are not really interested in cars, at least in my experience. Most of the guys that I know, which are all mostly engineers, don't give a shit about cars, even though cars are probably one of the most interesting engineering things that an average person can be, into, right? But I like cars and movies, and I like the movie Cars, and I like Top Gun, and I like Top Gun because Fast Machines Go Burr is fucking awesome. Like, I love that aspect of it, and I think the movie Gran Turismo did a great job with that, and they did really cool tricks and techniques to show you some of the motion that happens inside the car, and to show you these like overlays of things happening with the car, and I like those a lot. But the storytelling was weird. Like, there was like 3 different plots. Your standard sports movie plot. Guy fights other guy, and they have beef, but they eventually become friends, and they have this battle against this other guy. That is there. That makes sense. However, there was this like family story, and then there was this love story. And the love story was irrelevant, and the family story was not handled correctly. So there's only one track that matters, and it's not enough to make you give a shit about the movie. So I would say that this is a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. I would watch it again if I didn't have to pay for it, but I don't feel like I got my money's worth when I spent $5 on a movie and $15 on snacks, because I went on a Tuesday when we have kind of discounts here in the area that I live in. So it wasn't amazing, it wasn't horrible, it was just kind of like middling, and it's not that good of a movie, but Yasha, the guy that plays Rand in The Wheel of Time, was in this, and he rocked. He was horrible and evil, but it was nice to hate him. He did a good job at that. And what's his name? David Harbour, I think, the guy that was Jack Slater, or Slacker, I think. I liked him a lot. He was probably the best character in this whole movie. So yeah, and then I watched One Piece live action, the first episode, and it's great. I did a review for it already, or first impressions, that I uploaded before this video, so check that out if you're interested in my thoughts there. But I will be doing 4 different reviews for The Wheel of Time. I'm going to do episodes 1 and 2, then 3 and 4, then 5 and 6, and then 7 and 8. So feel free to watch those. There will be 5 total videos on The Wheel of Time. On the One Piece live action. And I might do a 6th one after season 2 of Wheel of Time ends, comparing the 2 shows and comparing their adaptation styles and what worked with one and what didn't work with the other one. Because my other Wheel of Time One Piece video was actually pretty successful for the channel. So I might want to dip into that well once again. So yeah, that's it for the film stuff. Let's get into the novels here. Or actually, let's get into stuff that I didn't finish reading, because there's a lot of that. So first of all, I didn't even touch any of the old stuff that I mentioned before. Like, I didn't touch Yagan, I didn't touch Akahoshi Book Club, I didn't touch Our World's Magic, I didn't touch Rogue Sun, I didn't touch any of that stuff. It sucks, but I just didn't get around to it. And because I got so sucked into the Wheel of Time books, I just didn't have time for the other things. So yeah, I also didn't touch Lord of Goblins, so I didn't get to read any of that, even though I have not read this version of the book yet. I did start Call of Atlantis, Exile of Atlantis, and I got through 1/3 of it. So you guys can see that. I already talked about it. If you guys are interested, you guys can see that review where I talk about the plot line of each of the short stories that I read and my feelings on them. So there is that episode. Overall, I liked it. I thought it was good, and I'm going to continue to read it. But this next month is the month of Cimmerian September. It's a little reading event that Michael K. Vaughan organized, and I'm joining it by reading the first Conan collection. So I think I'm going to leave Cole to the side for now and focus on Conan, right? So yeah, then I didn't really keep up with Flame of Steel. I did read a few more pages, but nothing substantial. I don't really have a new opinion on this. I am still stuck on the same opinion as last time, but I am going to make this a priority next month. So yeah, not much to say there. I did start Tarzan number 4, and I got halfway through, but I didn't come back to it because I got focused on Edgar Rice Burroughs and Wheel of Time, so I don't have anything new to say from last time that I talked about it. But overall, I really like this as a second version of the Tarzan story by the same creator, and I think he does a great job. Where Tarzan was ape first and then man later, Korak, Tarzan's son, is man first, ape second, and that makes him different from his father. That makes him a much more savage man somehow, because he didn't vest himself with humanity. He removed it from himself, and so that makes him way scarier and way crazier. And the fact that he becomes, the killer as a 13-year-old boy when situations are happening within him, right? When he's experiencing purity and his emotions are an all-time high, and then that changes him immensely, and I like that. And he also gets himself a Jungle Girl companion, which is also pretty cool, pretty different from Tarzan. So I like that. I thought it was good. Then moving on to the stuff that I didn't read in terms of comic books, I started Battle Chasers. I read the first issue, and it was great. I loved it. I thought it was really, really fun. I love the art style, and this is really up my alley because I love these kind of quest stories. And this is very much a quest, sword and sorcery type story, and I can't wait to read it. I am going to continue it next month. I might actually end up reading some of it tonight. So yeah, and then God Country. And again, this is a sword and sorcery type story, but it is very much founded around a family dynamic where this old man has Alzheimer's, then he finds a magic sword, and this magic sword allows him to remember. And so he doesn't want to give it up, but it is being recalled. The sword is being called back to its creator, this other god, and it's very difficult to kind of deal with this. And this god is not willing to let it go, and so there's going to be battle, and there's going to be difficulties ahead. And I really liked it. I am going to finish it as soon as I can. It was really, really good. So that's it for that. Let's move into what I have been reading. So let's start with the novels. So first of all, I finished The Shadow Rising finally. It only took me like a year, but I did do it. And then I immediately finished The Fires of Heaven, which was also great. I already did reviews for it. I think I have one more review for it left, and it's going to come up on Saturday. And I also started Lord of Chaos. I am about 20 chapters into it, so that's a third of the book. And it's wonderful. Wheel of Time is so good, man. I had forgotten it. And also, I think that when I first started this project, this reading project, Journey Through the Wheel of Time project, I was not really excited about novels at the time. I was very much still really into manga. I didn't have time or energy for anything else. And right now I am more into other stuff and not so into manga. And so it's been nice to get into something like The Wheel of Time that is so immersive and so large and so atmospheric and so full of interesting characters that I have not been able to see in a while because of the way that characters are in manga. It's pretty different, but also pretty similar. And those similarities allow me to still feel connected with that kind of vibe, but the differences are very exciting. They add a lot of spice or interest to what I'm reading, and I'm very happy with that. So that was it for the novels. Overall, really, really good stuff. So yeah, let's move on to the comic books here. So I already mentioned the ones that I didn't finish reading. Let's start with the ones I did finish reading this time. And we have Five Ghosts, which is a really interesting pulp style story. It's kind of like a cult detective story about this guy, Fabian Gray, who somehow gets possessed by 5 literary ghosts. And those ghosts are Sherlock Holmes, Merlin, Robin Hood, Musashi, or Murasama, I can't remember, and Dracula. And so he gains these powers from them. But because of the way that he got those powers, he's also in danger of losing himself, of dying. And he needs to find a way to overcome that difficulty. And it was really, really good. The art style is a bit weird, but it matches the style of the story so well. And once I got used to it, I really, really enjoyed it. So overall, Five Ghosts was great. I can't remember if I've done a review for it yet, but I will do one for it soon. So yeah, overall, really, really good stuff there. Then we have, let me see if I can get it here without dropping all of my other books. We have a Blue Beetle Graduation Day. I already did a big review for this. It was great. It was wonderful. It skews a little bit younger than my preference. It is more of a 14 to 15-year-old type of story. It is about someone going from high school to college, but ultimately it is about becoming your own person, which is something that is much more relatable to teenagers than it is to young adults like myself, who already are themselves, who are already experiencing new types of liminal spaces, like moving from college to work or moving from college to, wedded life or something like that. That's kind of a little bit more serious. And what we're seeing here, it is a little bit more lighthearted. It's a little bit younger skewing. And so some of the way that the story is told feels like it's aimed at kids compared to adults, but it still manages to be enjoyable and entertaining, and it shows so much character and so much class. And I love the colors of the artwork here and the way that the artwork depicts these characters. I really, really like it. And I can't wait to see Paco and Brenda show up some more. I really enjoy those 2 characters. So yeah, there you go. Blue Beetle Graduation Day, wonderful story. If you like the movie, definitely check this out. And then moving on to single issues, we have Conan the Barbarian #1, Conan #0. I really like these, but Conan #2 is actually the best issue so far, and I will talk about that later. I will do a review for it here soon, and I'll post it when I do. So yeah, here we have Red Sonja #1 and Red Sonja 0, and again, these were good. Honestly, the Conan stuff is a lot better than the Red Sonja stuff, but I think that's kind of par for the course. Still really enjoyable though. Here's Red Sonja #2. I think I already did a review for it, so yeah, I don't have too much to say about that one. Dead Lucky #8 introduces a new character. I mentioned that yesterday in the haul video. Then we have Rogue Sun #15. I already talked about it, so I'm not really going to show you talk about them too much, but this was good. I really enjoyed the story element of the hero character trying to get a truce with the villain character in order to provide himself with rest, basically. Dead Romance #6. I think it was a good story, but it doesn't feel like a good ending. However, this is the end of the story, at least so far. It does say it is the end of the miniseries, and I hope that means it's just volume 1 and that volume 2 will come later, but I'm not really sure because it does kind of finish the story, I just don't feel that it was that satisfying. So yeah, but I really love the artwork here. So overall, I still enjoyed that quite a bit. Then we have Mighty Barbarians number 5. This was great. I really enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun with this. I really like this story a lot, and I think it's fun. We get to see Cole finally interact with Brol, who I learned about recently through the Cole Exile of Atlantis book that I was reading. Queen of Swords number 2. This one was pretty interesting. I don't really love this character, and this story is about this character, so sometimes I feel like I'm not super invested, but I like the artwork, I like the colors, and I think that when the story relates back to Soren and Owen, it works really nicely. We have Sacrificers number 1. I was a bit confused by the ending because of the relationship between the family and the Sacrificer, but I like the world building, I like Rick Remender, I'm going to continue to read it for sure. Then we have Barbarella number 5. This was a huge disappointment. I hated this book so much. The only redeeming quality here is the graphic design on the cover and the beautiful art that is displayed here. But there is no inherent artistic value to the story. It is only the covers. There is no literary value here. It was a badly written story, and it really sucks. And I'm not really sure why, because Sarah Hoyt is the same person that wrote the previous Barbarella story, and that shit was awesome. So I don't know what the heck's going on. Also, the artwork inside the story is significantly worse than last time, and that doesn't help because I don't like the story, I don't like the art. Why am I buying this? Thankfully, it's ended, and at least I have nice covers to look at. But man, I feel like I wasted so much money on that. So yeah, then we have Queens of Lost World, San Julian's, and I didn't like this issue as much as the previous one. I think the problem was that the art style felt a little bit less polished than before, and also a lot of the characters look the same or very similar. However, even though they're labeled and different situations are happening, it also feels like the same thing is happening everywhere, and I'm not really sure what the fuck's going on. So I didn't really love that story all that much. Heatseeker, really good story. I really enjoy what's happening here. It is a lot of fake out deaths, so if you're not interested in that stuff, don't read this. However, there is an unfortunate cover here. I don't like how this looks. In Hyuk Lee is good at superheroes and streetwear, like I said before, but he's not that good at making pinups. And this is a poor version of a pinup that we could have gotten over this really awesome, interesting character. Honestly, I really wish they did a cosplay cover with Miss Brazzolo, but that's just me. It might be kind of something that's never going to happen, right? But the story is good. I really like it. There was this crazy sibling character introduced that is insane, and she does some crazy shit at the end, and it's really good. I didn't read this one, and I didn't read this one either, so I'm not going to talk about them. Then we have Dark Knights of Steel number 12. This is the end of the story, and it was not that good of an ending. I didn't feel satisfied, mostly because it's been so long since we saw the previous part of the story, and I feel like that wasted time, that kind of moment of lack of content really hurts my enjoyment of the story overall. However, it does set up new things, and that's not exciting for me, because if we're going to have the same problem as we did this time, I'm not interested. And the problem is that I really like the artwork here. If they switch to a different artist, they're not going to have that problem, but I'm not going to like the artwork unless it's like Jorge Jimenez or Dan Mora, and I'm very sure they're very busy with other things, so they're not going to be able to work here. So I'm not really sure how I feel about this. However, I do think that there were some missed opportunities to use Shazam, who should definitely be part of the story, but I don't know where he is. Mary Marble also should have been part of the story, and I'm guessing that they're going to show up later. I'm just not really sure what's going to happen there, right? So, yeah, overall, not that great. Conan the Barbarian number 2, though, is the last comic book that I read this month, and it's wonderful. It was awesome. I love the artwork. Rob De La Torre definitely stepped up. I think that I'm finally used to his artwork and the color choices used by, let me see who it was, by Dean White. And now that I am, I'm really loving this. I really like this stuff. And I think Jim Zub did a great job with the story. And we have this awesome color spread here that I really wish they turned into a poster that shows the Serpent Men, which I think that means that this is going to be connected to Tools of Doom, which would make a lot of sense because it's about zombies and lizard men. That does seem like something Tools of Doom would do. So I'm very excited to see if that connects. However, I'm expecting that some people might not like that because Tools of Doom is very much a Cole character, not a Conan character, even if the movie had him as one of the antagonists. and I'm not sure about the discourse around that. So yeah, then moving on to the manga, I need to talk about some stuff that I didn't read this month that I forgot about. So I didn't read Spy Family 4 or 5, and I didn't read Ranking of Kings. However, I did read everything else. So My Dress Up Darling number 9, wonderful, wonderful stuff. I really enjoyed this, and I like how it ends because it sets up a new set of cosplayers for Marion to interact with, and it's going to be pretty great. So then I read Drifting Dragons number 13 and 14, and I love these so much. We finally get a new version of the Quinzaza. We finally get to pay off the vice captains or the acting captain's situation where he finally becomes the captain. We get to see more interactions between the Quinzaza and the Slayer ship, and we get to see a really badass dragon show out and be badass and really, really cool. So yeah, I do think I'm going to do a review or kind of a video talking about Drifting Dragons here soon, because with the recent release of Volume 14, it means we're going to be probably a year or so before we get around to another volume. I think there are more volumes in Japan, but Kodansha is just not that great at releasing them in a timely fashion, and somehow they ended up releasing both of these within a month of each other, and so I think it's going to be a long time before we get around to seeing a new one. So I think it's the perfect time to talk about it, right? So yeah, and then finally I read A Business Proposal, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it a lot. I did record a video for it, but I haven't uploaded yet, so I will soon, and I will talk about it then, so I'm not going to go into it here. But yeah, that is everything that I've watched and read this month. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought, and thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you guys, and I appreciate everyone that stays till the end. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and see you guys later.